a very safe onward journey, and good morning.
Oh, man, shut up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
James Carville, thanks for coming on Press Club. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, and I love
Now,
Mediaite Press Club. All great. So we're in Seaward, Alaska, which is the entry point of Anchorage. I'm
yeah,
sitting on a
tell us
cruise
where
ship
you tell us where you are today.
I'm in Seaward, Alaska, which is I think like 45 minutes from the Anchorage airport, and I'm on a cruise ship called the Silver Nova, and my wife and I speak on it, so we took it up from Vancouver, and then we turn it around and go back down to Vancouver, and we're having a great time.
How is it while the 2024 election explodes to be out at sea?
To some extent, it's weird. I'll call people in Washington. I said, "How does it feel on the ground?" I guess the same way it feels to you. We're all looking at the same stories. I mean, it's kind of weird how fast technology and accessibility has become, and so I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And
Right.
uh, it's something that has never happened before ever in U.S. politics. So
Mm.
it's kind of fascinating to kind of watch it unfold.
Let's talk about that. You had a major piece drop in the New York Times this week in which you wrote,
Right.
"Mark my words, Joe Biden is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race." Tell us why you wrote this piece.
I'd been building up for a long time. I've always felt because I'm experiencing old age, and unlike most people, I have some vague idea what the job entails. And they're just not compatible. They never were. They're not. They'll never will be. And so I've been pretty consistent in that. The other thing that I understand, just because I'm in a position that most people are not, is how deep and wide the Democratic bench, and Democratic talent is around the country. And as long as President Biden is standing in the window, they can't get any light. I'm trying to do something to get the most people the most exposure to really talented people in politics as we possibly can. And they're there.
Right.
They're really there.
Now, I've been waking up each day since the debate with a different view of whether or not Biden would exit the race. First, I thought it's a done deal. Then, when he insisted he was staying in, I swung back to thinking nothing would change. I've gone back and forth on that on a near daily basis until Wednesday, really, I would say, when Nancy Pelosi said that Biden would make the right decision, which was silly because Biden has already made his decision, at least publicly. So that's the first day I concluded Biden was not actually going to survive this, not to mention when he got shanked by George Clooney in a Times op-ed. My question for you is, when did you think that this was all over for Joe Biden? When did it become apparent to you that there was just no chance that he was going to last? Because you wrote this piece earlier in the week.
21:03 hours Eastern Daylight Time. That's 9:03 minutes after the debate started. Well, I started getting texts, and they said that was Daddy 9 years ago. Oh my
Yep.
God, I can't watch. I mean, yeah, I kind of thought before, but and I was at the Aspen Ideas Festival, and I was a little bit late getting, probably got more than 5 minutes after it started, and I looked at my text and said, "Well, fuck this, I ain't watching. I know how this movie's going to end," and
Yep.
ended predictably well. And it's well, maybe he'll do better. He'll have a good press conference at NATO. Maybe he'll do well with. It doesn't matter. I just think I think the guy is. When he's a friend of mine, Michael Bennett might be the most deliberative human being in the United States.
Mm.
All right, there's nothing about Senator Bennett that says, "Well, this guy's going off half cocked," you know. And it's evident from what and I hear this. God damn it, James Schumer needs to do something. What's Hawking? They doing what they got to do. You just it's like when I was a young man, a wealthy friend, he would take me like bill fishing out in the Gulf of Mexico, and it takes some effort and some time to get a marlin in the boat,
Mm.
but if they hooked well enough, they're coming in. It's not easy. It's delicate. A lot of
Right.
things can go wrong.
The campaign clearly thinks there's no way he's dropping out, or at least they're signaling that publicly. What do you think has to happen now for the campaign to go from insisting there's no way he's going to drop out and attacking anyone that suggests he might to
So let me say this. The athletic department has 100% confidence in Coach Smith. And anybody that questions this just doesn't know what they're talking about. We're ready. Our football team will be ready to go. And the next day, Coach Smith has decided, unbeknownst to us, to spend more time with his family. Okay, this is the same shit you see over and over. So there's nothing else I can say now, according to what somebody just texted me, that Times is reporting that the Biden campaign is polling Harris to see how she would do. Well, could I say that's a vote of not very much confidence? Could be. Come on, you can, in everything, in the only value that I've had in this is it's all so depressingly predictable. So you have a giant fuck up. Giant. First thing, the staff, then the media, and now it's the elites. Well, what is an elite? I hear that all the time. But do I look like I'm elite? Is there anything elite about Carvilles, Louisiana? I don't think there is. I had checked, but you ought to go take a look at. Is there something elite about LSU? I don't know. I don't think so. But there's just predictable crisis. Pull off the staff off the shelf, pull the media off, pull the elites off. The world doesn't understand me. Okay, keep going, but I think this will run into course here pretty soon.
NBC News just reported that a campaign official on the Biden campaign said they're looking at the internal numbers and there's simply no way that he can win. And there's no path. So I think you have a lot of people that are sympathetic to Biden and the administration who are saying, at least to the campaign, show us the numbers that prove that he can actually win against Trump. And those numbers just aren't there. So, I mean, it sounds like, people like Pelosi at least want to wait until the NATO summit is over this week. What power?
I can understand that.
Right. But what power do you think?
Completely understandable.
Yeah. What power do you think Democrats have to make Biden drop out when the NATO summit is over? Let's say he doesn't want to.
First of all, and I know this because I know a lot of them, the donors are in total revolt. And so, and you got to understand how many entities in the Democratic Party need funding. The Senatorial Committee, the House Committee, the DNC, the interest groups, that entire infrastructure. And these donors are overwhelmingly saying, I'm not moving until you make a change at the top. So Hakeem's guy calls another guy, and the guy said, well, you go tell Hakeem I ain't giving a nickel until I'm not supporting this. And so they go, Hakeem's guy goes to Hakeem. But Schumer's guy is all that is not Schumer himself, who's like, that guy never stops.
So what did you make of Pelosi's carefully worded comments on the matter? Did you watch her interview where she said that, she hopes Biden makes the right decision?
I read it, and it would be completely consistent with Congressman, I guess he's a congressman now, former Speaker Pelosi. I mean, that's pretty strong. I mean, the idea that we're 6 weeks in the convention, maybe, and people are saying, maybe we got to make a change. This is historic. It's breathtaking. Right. It's staggering. It's unprecedented. It's sui generis. It's, I don't know. It's whatever you can think of. Get the thesaurus out and let's go through the words to describe it. But yes, I mean, and that to me was, she doesn't have a machete. She operates with a really sharp scalpel. All right. And that's a honed, sharp scalpel as you're going to find. And it's working.
Did you read George Clooney's piece in the Times? What did you make of that?
I did. I think that's the way that George feels. All right. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I saw people that were at the fundraiser in West Los Angeles. And they said you could just see his body language. He was not happy. And I haven't spoken to him. There was no, hey man, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Kind of thing. But I when I read it, that was entirely consistent with what I was told that his kind of general take of mood is.
Right.
And I think that he is reflecting, those people, they're like the rest of us. I know a lot of them. They know each other. They talk to each other. They gossip back and forth, and they go to the same clubs and restaurants. And I think that he was saying what he'd been hearing overwhelmingly from influential people out there.
Now, you have a very novel proposal for how you think the selection process for a Biden replacement should go. Can you run us through what that idea is?
Right. Like I said, I'm a provocateur. I would come up with the maximum idea that would show the maximum number of really talented Democrats with two really talented former presidents that know what the job entails, and is important to a guy like me know how to win the goddamn thing. And I think if we did that, you'd have 100 million viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be because people are just starved for something different. I know that. Now, might be, and people like argue with me about the details. If you don't get James Carville, fuck the details. I'm trying to, lob a grenade in a room and get people to react to it. And they got better detail people than me.
Who's your preferred candidate for something like that? Do you have anyone that catches your eye?
I would be honest, and I'll be just as honest as I can be, because there's no reason for me to be dishonest. I would really like to watch and see, and some people I'm going to think are going to be better, and they would not be as good, and some people I'm going to think that wouldn't be as good are going to be better. The other thing I will say this, I keep hearing by people who I trust who say, Harris has really gotten better. And so I'm fine, but let's have a post parade. Let's have Olympic trials before we go to the Olympics. And I think she would start with a kind of position that if you're good, we'll be for you. All right. I mean, if all things being equal, I don't have any doubt that she would be, or should be, the choice for Democrats. But I'd like it, and if we did that, and it was somebody that was really good, and she picked a person for vice president, I mean, you can start something. Politics is, particularly Democratic politics, is really about excitement. It's about hope. Or, Franklin Roosevelt, the dealer needs to be a leader in hope. Bill Clinton, the man from hope. Barack Obama, the hope poster. All right? It's not just a bunch of policies on one side of the line or the other. It's really about giving people something to look forward to, something to be a part of. Politics should be like a common undertaking for people. And it's anything but that right now. And anything that we can do to stimulate that, I think, is worth taking a shot.
What do you make of this argument that you're shafting the first black woman to be vice president if you pass over Harris for the job, or if you open it up and don't basically anoint her as the president if Biden steps down?
It's the most unimpressive argument I've ever heard in my life. I mean, really? What you always teach athletes is you always want the ball. Okay? So if you're a third baseman and you're saying, God damn, I hope they don't hit the ball to me, you're not going to catch it. You have, your mentality has to be, hit the thing right here, you son of a bitch, and I'm going to catch it and throw you out. So with Harris, as opposed to sending people out and say, this is it, say whatever process, well, she can't say it now because she's obviously in an understandable kind of sticky wicket for now. But if her people come out blazing that to not do this is an insult to whatever everywhere, that's a losing message. That's a loser's message, that you don't have any choice but to pick me. Not, I'm going to make you want to pick me. All right, that's your attitude. All right, in all my life or whatever, I've had like stupid confidence. All right, and sometimes you need stupid confidence. But I'm just saying, if they go with that message, it, that's just not that's not going to inspire anybody. So if you don't go with me, you've insulted an entire class of the Democratic coalition. Oh, come on. You can do better than that, can't you? I mean, just with a little bit of effort. By the way, if she said she's going to do this and she looks forward to making a presentation, she would probably chase more people off. But you got to understand something about this business. It's really about confidence and hope. And once you don't show confidence, then you get killed. And you could never be any better than you think you are. If I was advising her, I'd say, let all these motherfuckers come out. You were a former prosecutor. You're a former state attorney general. You're a former United States senator. You're vice president of the United States. You might be the most qualified person to run for vice president since I don't know who. And God damn it, you want that ball. Hit it here. I got it. That's the attitude that you have to have in politics. You got to have that in journalism. Okay, I can fucking do this. Okay, I know how to pick out stories. I know how to lay it out. I know how to clip the video or something. You got to be cocky. If you're not cocky, you ain't worth a shit.
Speaking of the media, the Biden team has been at war with the press for the last few weeks. The New York Times in particular, they've taken crap from the campaign over its editorial board's aggressive push to see him step down, a couple other pieces that they've published, including yours. Do you think it's wise for the Biden team to be making this a fight between the president and the press?
You have the catastrophic events of the night of 26 June. So the standard playbook. First, you blame the staff. Okay. Yeah. The staff had overworked it. Well, it actually had 11 days. Okay. 11-day jet lag. Come on, man. That's a lot. Huh? Then it's the media. All right. That's predictable. But the media hates me. The media doesn't like me. I don't hang out. I don't go to the same clubs they do. I don't hang out at the same cocktail parties they do. Okay, great. Then it's the elites. It's the elites. What the fuck is an elite? I told me 1,000 times. Do I look like an elite to you? And so it's all the standard playbook. And if you start at people want you to win, you're going to win. If they don't want you to win, you're not going to win. And they clearly don't want Biden. They blame the fact that he's old. They don't blame the New York Times for telling them that he's old. And you saw the wisdom of the coverage on display the night of that debate. I mean, so I don't, yeah, I understand. And the other thing that I would point out, I just did a thing with the kind of Dow Jones board or something, and you hear this shit. The media this, the media that, the media controls everything. And I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But in 92, we had 150 reporters on the campaign point. I mean, the Des Moines paper had somebody. The Boise, Idaho paper had somebody. Now you might get the Times, the Post, or maybe Politico, maybe a couple of nets. That's about it. And, when I was a young man, Lyndon Johnson said, well, I lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the war. That's power. If you say today, and if you lose Wolf Blitzer, well, I don't give a shit. And it's not, I want to be clear, it's not a rap on Wolf or anybody else, but there's no one commanding person that has so much influence that you'd say, well, that's the end of that. All right, that's when you really have power.
Yeah.
And it's in people's interest sometimes to prop up the power. Sometimes it's in the media's interest to prop up their own power. I understand that. They're part of it, but it's not what is the media? I have no idea. It's like being in the elite. What the fuck is the elite? All right? uh, you know, there's all kinds of journalism out there. There's all kinds of stuff, and everybody's got a site, everybody's got a podcast, everybody's got a YouTube channel, and I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just there. It's just a thing.
You've ran a number of incredibly successful campaigns, for decades you've been in politics. Do you think that it's harder now with the media climate to run a campaign, or has the fact that the media is more saturated and less powerful made it easier for campaigns?
Some years ago, maybe 10, I don't know, but not that long ago, the foreign affairs, the foreign policy, that kind of gray shit people buy at airports and act like they're smart.
Yep.
So
I have an unread copy on my desk.
Right. We all do. We all carry around. Okay. So they got a hold to a memo that Cicero's brother wrote about politics. And they asked me if I would review the memo. And my conclusion was, well, we hadn't thought of anything new. It was the same back then. Talking about filing fake lawsuits and attack your opponents first. And I mean, we all think that we're part of some revolution but politics is always about framing a choice. All right. Politics has always been about, being dominating the narrative. All of it, you read the Cicero's brother's memo, he could have wrote it for any campaign today. And, people become fascinated and they go, well, how do you adapt with, all of the online internet stuff? How do you, there are two kinds of people in political professionals, those that are experts in how you communicate and those that are experts in what you communicate. So I don't care. So you have the printing press. Great. Can you imagine? And people think we live in an age of rapid technological intervention, and you can't think of the day if you lived in a sod house in Nebraska. Think of your life the day before you had radio and a day after you had radio. Oh, brother, was that a big deal? All right, TV, that was great, and the internet was great, but go from no radio to radio, everything instantaneously. You were entertained. You knew what the dial was. You knew who won the ball game. All right, you knew what movies were coming out. I mean, so we always have. And we always feel like when we go through some technological transformation that we have a perch in history that no one else has done, and people become fascinated with how you communicate and forget you can pay people to do that. They have people that know fucking algorithms and God knows whatnot, and how to tailor a message for a particular subgroup. I mean, you know that. If everybody does that shit. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just good business. But if you don't have product, it doesn't matter.
Knowing how much these campaigns can know about the electorate and looking at the numbers that we've seen, why do you think the Biden campaign has been so reticent to accept that most Americans don't think he should run for another term? What do you think the sticking point is there that's stopping them from just saying, this clearly isn't going to be
I think what happened is, I think that I know the people that work for President Biden, I know them, they're all friends of mine. They're all able people, don't get me wrong. But I think he has there are more employees. I'm not sure he asked them what he should do, but this is, and they see this and they say, yeah, we got our policy. The country really doesn't want Trump back. And at the end of the day, and this is what they tell, this is their whole message, at the end of the day, people are going to see this choice and they're going to choose to vote against Trump. They may be right. I can't tell you that it does not look particularly encouraging right now as you look across it, but why gamble? Why not give the people what they want? All they're asking for is something different. Mm-hmm. They're not asking for a program of ethnic cleansing. They're not asking for a major tax cut. They're not asking for some, new. They just want something different. And why not give it to them? I mean, don't get me. And of course, people are right. They didn't cover Trump enough. You know, he lied the whole way. But we already knew he was going to do that. That's not newsworthy. All right? And there's plenty of time to deal with Trump, and it's just a criminal. I mean, that's all he is. And to not see that is to be an idiot. I mean, and I'm not just talking about the playbook to Stormy Daniels. I'm talking across the board. And he's got, you know, look at how many criminals he had in his administration. Look at the Supreme Court. God, who could look at that shit? And now I mean, every person in the federal government, from private army to Secretary of State, lives under an enforceable code of ethics and an enforceable gift ban, except for 9 people. So the rules don't apply to us. And now we live in a country where we're told the most fundamental thing you can have in America is every person is equal before the law. We don't have a king. Well, fuck that. We don't live in that country anymore. And I think they are a justifiably enormous issue. Democrats have not lost an election since Dobbs. I don't think you can spend too much time attacking the Supreme Court for catastrophic ethical standards and for just writing whatever the fuck they want to just find it. Well, we want this outcome, so we'll figure a way to get to justify the outcome we want. I think it's a great issue, and I think it also feeds into the overall. I say something between cynicism and just lethargy when people look at the United States government, any of the 3 branches. And you know, I can't blame them.
Now,
it's hard to blame people for it.
Speaking of, you know, issues for this election, you famously coined the phrase "it's the economy, stupid," while working on Clinton's presidential campaign in 1992. What phrase would you use for a Democrat looking to beat Trump in 2024?
Hope we can do it as a nation. I think people, you know, new direction, new energy, new America. Let's get a fresh start. You're not going to come out with a 30-point plan. You just don't have time, and it's not worth it. Now, when people say, "Well, you say it's the economy, stupid, James," but look at well, you know, if you look at the data, people over 55 have one view. They're pretty happy lot, by and large. And by the way, Biden so far has done better with older voters than you would expect from a Democrat. Younger voters, they're worth a shit. Why? Because I live in one economy and 27-year-olds live in an entirely different economy. I live in an economy that is rigged in favor of savers. I live in an economy that is designed to protect people who have it made. And I feel much better about the economy than somebody that's 26 or 27 says, "What is this guy talking about? I can't buy a house. I can't afford insurance. I can't afford interest rates. I can't afford that." You read these stories that it costs $73,620 to go to college. Who the fuck can pay that? And I'm sorry, the most illuminating thing I've seen in the last year is the Scott Galloway TED Talk video, where we just have intergenerational theft in this country on a magnitude that's almost impossible to comprehend. And young people know that we're stealing from them. I mean, they understand. I mean, they may not have thought it out to the nth degree, but yes, I think this time does show it really is a lot more about the economy than you think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of reflected in the different views people have of the economy.
Say Democrats can't turn it around, Trump wins. What do you think we have in store for a second Trump term? What does that look like? Lawlessness
on a scale that we can't comprehend. They're already coming out saying they're going to do it. Christian nationalism is going to take hold in the courts. If Trump wins, he will turn over everything to them. It's the most insidious, dangerous, anti-American thing that I could possibly think of. But it sounds fine. But you're a Christian, you're nationalist. I mean, what's that? Everything. I think that you are going to see just for NATO is gone. We're going to express the values of authoritarianism and totalitarianism. We're going to continue down the path of lawlessness. I don't know what else. What else can I say? And they're already telling you. I mean, this whole thing about Project 25 it's almost predictable. It wouldn't be so tragic and so against who we are as a country. You almost could want to laugh at it. But the catastrophe that awaits, I literally think this, right? I think it'd be the end of the Constitution. I really do. And I'm not. I mean, I already see that we're starting to place people above the law. I'm already to see where Supreme Court justices are talking about the Comstock Act. I'm already seeing like Josh Hawley and Mike Johnson say, yeah, I'm a Christian nationalist. You got a problem with that. And I think this is just going to encourage more and more and more of that. And the one thing I do firmly believe that there's only one hope for America, and that's the Democratic Party. There's no hope outside of that. Fuck it. It's not. It's not. Yeah, when you look at it, and you say, "God damn, James, that's an unwieldy, kind of convoluted, constipated thing if I ever saw one." And you're right about everything, but that's all we got. We got nothing else, and we got to at least get this thing kind of right and win. Because if we lose, we'll lose the Constitution. If you think that these guys give a wit's ass about freedom of speech or freedom or anything, you're just not living in the world. You're just not living in the world. And that's what I think. And, it's one of those things where I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm really not having second thoughts on that.
Yep. Stakes are high. James Carville, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, they're really high.